That is she. The one who can save our queen.
More. She will save our world.
Ugh. So much for taking a night off.
Welcome back, everyone. Happy holidays. This will be my full Marvel What If Season 2 Episode 5 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Big reminder that they're airing once per day. So like we've started to get post-credit scenes and teasers for what the finale is going to be. We're actually going to see that finale literally in a couple days. Careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, we'll just start at the beginning, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, starting with the episode title, What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper, which is basically like the sequel to the Captain Carter episodes from Season 1 and that post-credit scene from Season 1. During the opening scene, Captain Carter's Battle of New York happens during her events of the first Avengers movie, but with history being slightly different based on what happened previously in Season 1. Instead of getting stuck in the ice, she was transported to present day with the Tesseract portal during the events of that Avengers movie instead of Loki arriving, and that's how she wound up on that present day Avengers team. But then the Watcher showed up to take her to the Multiverse Avengers team, but as he explains, after the events of Season 1, he returned everybody to where he took them from in the exact moment. And because he yoinked her from that present-day Avengers period, he took her back to that, and they just pick up with the events of that first Avengers movie being slightly different. In this reality, her Avengers team during that first Avengers movie is Captain Carter obviously leading the team. It is Haley Atwell doing the voice again. Black Widow played by Lake Bell again. She plays Black Widow in all the episodes, and she played Black Widow in Season 1. Jeremy Renner came back as a version of Hawkeye. Iron Man is here, Thor, and the Wasp instead of the Hulk being on the team. But there is a Bruce Banner Hulk that exists in this universe. They reference him later in the episode. Pretty much everybody's suits look similar to the ones they wore during the first Avengers movie, or like in Captain Carter's case, it's based on Captain America's suit during that movie, based on her original suit, so it's like a more modernized version of her Captain Britain-looking suit. The Wasp's suit looks like the one that she was wearing in Ant-Man and the Wasp, just like a red version of that. The Wasp being on the team is also a bit of a reference to the original Avengers team. When the Avengers first formed in the 1960s, Wasp was a big part of that original roster. Fun fact too, when they were making the first live-action MCU Avengers movie, they actually almost put a version of Wasp on the team, played by Zooey Deschanel. Can you believe what that would have been like if she had played a version of the Wasp? So I think that's why they put her on this version of the team. Like, it's just a bit of a meta Easter egg, like this alternate version of live-action MCU Avengers that almost wound up happening.
Nice. Little trick I picked up in Berlin.
Uh-huh.
I want eyes in the sky. Iron Man, Thor, keep the fighting down here.
All their witty banter, the dialogue, is similar to the banter in the first Avengers movie. They take down the Chitauri, Captain Carter, Black Widow, stop Loki. Having a punchable face is meant to be a reference to Hulk thrashing him in the live-action MCU version. We get a brief cameo from the Watcher inside his multiverse base. It's located between universes, depicting them as facets of a mirror, like him just watching different television stations, basically. There's shards into realities floating around him. Black Widow, Iron Man scene, all random scenes from previous episodes and future episodes. Some of them seem like Season 1 episodes too.
I don't do sequels, normally.
He breaks the fourth wall when he says he doesn't do sequels, meaning that he knows he's a fictional character inside a TV show that has episodes. The Watcher's done this in previous comic books before, like broken the fourth wall, but typically there are very few comic book characters in Marvel that break the fourth wall, like Deadpool or She-Hulk, for instance. She-Hulk did the exact same thing during the live-action MCU, but she actually broke the fifth wall when she was doing that, and that's usually when you address the writers of a show. Like, she literally paused her show and backed out on Disney+, like she left her show literally. One of the other shows that does stuff like this all the time is Rick and Morty. Like, Rick always references that he knows that he's a fictional character inside a TV show, and sometimes he's broken the fifth wall addressing the writers of the show directly.
Swear to God, if we're still climbing out of this hole 2 seasons from now...
Maybe that was it.
The Watcher's fourth wall break is also a callback to the original What If comic books. Each different What If comic book is meant to be a completely different story with an alternate history in some major event. But the whole idea here is that they brought Captain Carter back from Season 1 just because the showrunners really liked the character so much, and they wanted to continue that serialized aspect that they had during Season 1 with some of the characters coming back to form the Multiverse Avengers team. This time she's actually coming back for the same reason too, like another Multiverse Avengers team, but it's being put together by Scarlet Witch, who we see at the end of the episode in a bit of an end credit tag scene, in Nick Fury in a Marvel 1602 adaptation. You probably picked up on this too, but Elizabeth Olsen and Samuel L. Jackson both came back to voice their characters, so this is technically the first time that Elizabeth Olsen has come back as Scarlet Witch after Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, even though it's like a completely different version of the character.
More. She will save our world.
I know there's all kinds of questions too, like isn't the Scarlet Witch supposed to be singular, like there's only meant to be one Scarlet Witch for the entire multiverse, and like all the other versions of Wanda never become Scarlet Witches in their own universes? There's always been a couple of moments like that on the What If television show where they're like small details that are a little inconsistent. You can get really into the weeds on the logic behind that, but I wouldn't go too crazy about it. Samuel L. Jackson also did the voice of his character in present day too, in all the other episodes that he appears in. He shows a couple scenes from the ending of Season 1 with that Multiverse Avengers team, the Guardians of the Multiverse. The reason why he pauses on Supreme Strange is because we'll also get Supreme Strange coming back at the end of the episodes for the Marvel 1602 episodes. There's a bit of a time jump, and they do their version of Captain America Winter Soldier with the Captain Carter characters. This time it's Black Widow doing the on your left meme running around the Washington Monument, and Peggy Carter is the one that's driving the Corvette coming to pick her up. During the scene, they also flip the dialogue from the Winter Soldier movie, so like Captain Carter gets all of Black Widow's MCU dialogue from the Winter Soldier movie, making jokes about Black Widow.
Hey fellas, either one of you know where the Smithsonian is? I'm here to pick up a fossil.
It's hilarious.
Hey, lovely. Need a lift?
You know you could join me one of these mornings.
Running in circles has never been my style.
She gets her version of the Captain America stealth suit. They go on a similar mission on the boat at the beginning of that movie, only this time the pirates were after the Hydra Stomper, her skinny boy Steve Rogers, who's become this universe's version of the Winter Soldier. And his armor has become a more modernized Russian-themed version of what it used to be, like he's got the red star of Russia on it. They explain his backstory and Bucky's went a little bit differently because of how they ended World War II in their universe. So after Captain Carter was pulled into her portal at the end of her episode, Steve Rogers uses his Hydra Stomper armor suit and Bucky to go around destroying all the different Hydra bases all over the world, implying that in present day, Hydra doesn't exist anymore, like they perma-killed Hydra back in the 1940s and the early 1950s. During his last mission, like as the Cold War starts to ramp up, he disappears in their final mission, but turns out he's captured by the Black Widows in the Red Room. Essentially, Dreykov starts to condition him as another one of the Black Widows as part of the program. Bucky survived that last fight in 1953 and just goes back to the US, goes into politics eventually, becoming Secretary of State, basically getting General Thunderbolt Ross's job in the MCU. It's the exact same job. It also looks like he becomes the director of the World Security Council like Alexander Pierce was in Winter Soldier, because he gets a lot of scenes that Alexander Pierce had in the Winter Soldier movie. But because Hydra doesn't exist, he's not evil in this universe, like it's just normal Bucky. But as far as they explain, there's like no secret Hydra plot going on in the episode. This is all the Red Room and the Black Widows behind it. And if it wasn't clear, even in the MCU when Hydra still was a thing in present day, the Red Room was not connected to Hydra, like they were completely separate organizations. Black Widow explains the Budapest operation with Hawkeye in her universe goes down pretty much the same way. She thinks she killed Dreykov, but could never find the location of the Red Room. He's meant to be dead, but in reality, Melina, also from the Black Widow movie, takes control of the Red Room and perfects her control technology in her programs for brainwashing the Black Widows. And essentially under her, the Black Widows become even more effective, more deadly. Their aerial Red Room base becomes even better, explaining why Natasha never found it, because it was in the sky cloaked all this time. Rachel Weisz also came back from the Black Widow movie to voice her character again, but no Red Guardian and no Yelena Belova.
I was proud of you. You were a very successful killing machine. But then you became an Avenger.
She fights Batroc the Leaper the same way Cap did in the Winter Soldier movie. They find her Steve Rogers, who breaks out of his shipping containment, basically picking up where the Season 1 post-credit scene left off. Originally, I think this episode was actually meant to be episode 1 for Season 2, but then everything completely changed. They delayed it a couple times, and then changed the way they actually released the episodes. Black Widow makes a RoboCop reference, which Captain Carter has not seen yet, even though she has seen Star Wars. Don't worry, we'll get to that. They have a brief fight, then he escapes, but as they explain, this is all part of Melina's plan to lure out Captain Carter so she can actually get control of her, which is meant to be another version of the plot during the Black Widow movie. That was what Dreykov was trying to do with Black Widow, reprogram her so he could have control of someone inside the Avengers, and that's what Melina wants. Like, she wants to control Captain Carter inside her Avengers so she can essentially control the Avengers. So like the whole first half of the episode, Skinny Boy Steve Rogers' programming is so good that he's able to fool Captain Carter and Black Widow into believing that they successfully saved him. Everything he does is just a feint to lure her into a trap. They explained the main reason why he stayed young this time because he doesn't have the super soldier serum is because the Hydra Stomper armor and the new arc reactor that Howard Stark created for it are slowing his aging process, but if he takes the armor off, that's it, like he'll die. So essentially, he's been wearing that armor this entire time, but I assume that they actually put him in cryo storage, Winter Soldier style, between different missions. So like, it's not like he's been walking around all this time for years and years and years. They can also probably open the armor to clean him off, otherwise he's gonna get super gamey, like, wow, you stink under that armor. When they go back to Nick Fury, she has pretty much the same argument with him that Captain America had with his Nick Fury in the MCU about lying to him about what was really going on, and Black Widow lying to him as well too. They knew the whole time that Skinny Boy Steve Rogers was probably still alive and under the control of the Red Room. They confirmed that Bigfoot exists in this universe, but the closest thing to Bigfoot in the actual Marvel universe is Walter Sampson from the X-Men comics, who goes by the codename Sasquatch, but there's no actual Bigfoot in the Marvel universe. And I just made that Rick and Morty reference. They literally also just did a Bigfoot plot on Rick and Morty. Nick Fury makes a reference to a shield not stopping Skinny Boy Steve Rogers. That's meant to be a reference to the ending where she does finally win him over by putting down the shield, like she does it without the shield. They give Bucky all of his Alexander Pierce scenes from Winter Soldier, but like I said, he's not evil. They brought back Councilman Singh from the Winter Soldier movie. Bernard White, who played the character in the movie, also came back to do the voice again. The alien Old Man Bucky has shared beers with is Thor, obviously, drinks a lot of beer, and it's Sebastian Stan doing the voice again. He came back to do all the Bucky scenes in all the different episodes. The Sokovian aid package that they're talking about implies that the events of Avengers Age of Ultron will go down differently in this universe, or maybe never happen at all if Ultron is ultimately never created. It's also meant to set up the ending in Sokovia in that Russian training town. He also makes a Civil War reference, which is a bit of a callback to Captain America's Civil War, but in this universe, Sokovia is also literally in the middle of an actual civil war. Crossbones comes back, and it is Frank Grillo coming back to do the voice again, but in this universe, remember, Hydra doesn't exist in present day, so he never joined Hydra, so he's just like a totally normal, good agent. And remember, when Steve Rogers, Hydra Stomper, attacks Bucky, he's only attacking Bucky just to lure out Captain Carter. It's all meant to be a trap to lure her out. When he makes the plutonium and pomade joke, that's just a reference to Howard Stark eventually creating a working arc reactor based on the Tesseract because the original Hydra Stomper armor was powered by the Tesseract, not an arc reactor. Then Bucky saves Steve Rogers' life is also meant to be a reference, like a mirror to Steve Rogers' Captain America doing the same thing in the Winter Soldier movie, like going against orders because he was trying to save Winter Soldier. Black Widow takes them to one of her secret hideouts in St. Kilda, Scotland on this island. It might be a reference to them going to Scotland during Avengers Infinity War, but they were in a different town during that movie. She pours them a vodka, making a Russian drinking cheer, also foreshadowing the Black Widow movie storyline with Melina and the other Black Widows coming later. She also suggests using Iron Man and his Stark tech to devise a way to get Steve Rogers out of his suit, then maybe Bruce Banner using his gamma experiments and serums to keep Steve Rogers alive, implying that they might turn him into like a version of the Steve Rogers Hulk to keep him alive. Captain Carter unfortunately says no, we don't need another version of the Hulk. They literally just did that during episode 3, during the What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas episode, where he takes some of the Hulk's gamma serum and becomes a purple version of the Hulk. When she says unplugging it and plugging it back in, that's just a reference to people's routers in real life. Like if your internet is slow or it's not working, unplug it, then try plugging it back in. Your internet will probably be fine. Captain Carter then makes a Star Wars Empire Strikes Back reference, saying that he'll get stuck in prison, frozen in carbonite, revealing that she has seen the Star Wars movies. Black Widow makes a joke about her being a super nerd, like, oh, so that's what you're doing on the weekends, watching Star Wars movies. Black Widow also made a similar type of joke during the Captain America Winter Soldier movie about Steve Rogers being kind of nerdy, not doing really fun stuff on the weekends. Even though in reality, watching Star Wars movies is actually a lot of fun. Captain Carter is the one who decides to try and track down the Red Room and look for answers there. Josh Keaton then voices Steve Rogers again, like he gets his first actual speaking lines in the episode. He's the voice of Spectacular Spider-Man that most people remember, who is now canon to the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movies. Technically, that also makes him canon to the MCU too, because they crossed over MCU moments in that movie. They reveal Melina's new Black Widow training facility is inside Sokovia, like it used to be a Russian facility that the military ran and the Black Widows just took it over. A lot of you also probably picked up on the vibes here. It's basically meant to be kind of like a version of Westview from the WandaVision series, like a quintessential mid-century town, gazebo and all. And the funny thing about this is actually based on real life. Like during the Cold War, people in other countries like Russia, for example, would create towns like this to train their troops. They make a John Cougar Mellencamp reference, and Captain Carter reveals that Hawkeye taught her all about Dad Rock. She also references the multiverse creature that she fought getting sucked into the portal during Season 1. Then basically they imply here that the Hydra Stomper Steve Rogers is stalling for time so Melina can arrive with the Black Widows in their aerial Red Room base. They play Captain America and Peggy Carter's theme music again. It's the same music they played at the end of Avengers Endgame when they reunited, like at the very end of the movie. It was meant to be the same song that was playing for the two of them during the original Captain America First Avenger movie. They get attacked by all the Black Widow training dummies shooting the Widow Stingers at them, and Captain Carter soaks so many of these like it's an ocean of Widow Stingers before she goes down. There are a couple minor changes that they make to history in this episode too, with the Red Room just in general. Black Widow claims that she grew up on the air base, but in the MCU, Dreykov didn't create that till 2008, right after the Budapest operation where she tried and failed to kill him. But I think in the context of this universe, the aerial base was just created much earlier in the timeline. Melina returns, and like I said, it is Rachel Weisz coming back to voice the character again, and they brought back all the Black Widows from the Black Widow movie, like these are all the same basic people. In this reality, she's meant to have taken over the Red Room after Dreykov was killed by Natasha, and she's wearing an upgraded Black Widow power suit that gives her way more enhanced strength, speed, durability, like she's got those crazy, wicked-looking heels. I already explained her grand plan here, like her whole gambit was to gain control of Captain Carter, condition her so that she had somebody inside the Avengers who she could control, and thus control the Avengers. That's basically the plot of the Black Widow movie. That was what Dreykov was trying to do with Natasha, like get her under his control, like reprogram her so he could control the Avengers ultimately. Basically, the rest of the episode plays out like the end of the Black Widow movie. Captain Carter winds up winning Bucky over by laying his shield down, breaking his programming briefly, long enough for him to sacrifice himself kamikaze destroying the Red Room like they destroyed it at the end of the Black Widow movie with it crashing to the ground. It's implied that Melina was killed when Black Widow attaches her to his last ride there, but at the end of the episode, Captain Carter also reveals he probably survived that final explosion and he's just out there somewhere, which is also a callback to the end of the Winter Soldier movie in Captain America Civil War, where Cap was still looking for Bucky, who was alive out there in the wild. This is meant to be the end of the Black Widow program in the Red Room in this universe, so it's implied that either they'll track down these other Black Widows and help deprogram them, or some of them probably became mercenaries working for other operations around the world. We get the Watcher in the background watching everything go down during the ending, then Captain Carter, after a time jump, steals one of Iron Man's cars inside their version of the Avengers Tower, claiming that Steve Rogers is still alive, she's going to go look for him. Black Widow says she'll join her, but just as that's happening and the Watcher starts to narrate again from inside the room, we get a bit of an end credit tag scene with her getting sucked through another multiverse portal to the Marvel 1602 universe. It's basically set up for the Marvel 1602 episode, like the last couple of episodes. It's basically Scarlet Witch using her chaos magic to pull her across the multiverse. She's with that universe's version of Nick Fury, and when they reference saving their queen, that's supposed to be a version of Cate Blanchett playing another version of Hela, but it's Queen Hela. It's meant to be kind of a meta Easter egg because in real life, Cate Blanchett also played a version of Queen Elizabeth I, and Queen Elizabeth's reign ended around 1602, like that was when King James was beginning to take the throne. But I think the idea is that in this version of What If, things have gone completely bonkers in that 1602 reality with a bunch of different characters getting sucked into this like amalgam universe. Something is happening in this universe that necessitates Scarlet Witch putting together this multiverse team. And in the context of the episode, Scarlet Witch is dressed in that old-timey 1600s garb. She's meant to be sort of a version of Merlin in this universe, like Wanda Merlin. Fun fact, Merlin, Camelot, Excalibur, King Arthur, all that stuff is canon to the MCU. That's where the ebony blade that the Black Knight Kit Harington's character uses originally came from. It was created by Merlin. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in the episode though, so if you spotted anything that I didn't talk about in the video, just write it below in the comments. My full episode 6 video will post tomorrow, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. That's meant to be the What If Kaori Reshaped the World episode. Click here for that, I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other What If videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.